I see a lot of people in Facebook groups and social media overall always asking which skills do I have to learn in order to become a nomad. Now, a lot of the people focus on the financial side of skills, like money making skills, but no one really talks about the other type of skills that you actually need to learn in order to adapt and to thrive in any country that you are. And right here, I'm going to be showing you exactly which is the skill and the thing you need to be doing in order to learn all these other skills just naturally and make it easier for you. And I'm going to show you just here in my laptop. I'm going to show you a presentation and help you learn faster any type of skill that you want as a nomad, so that you can hopefully learn to adapt and thrive anywhere that you are in the world. So why learn skills to accelerate your global growth? Now, you have to understand that as nomads and travelers, constant travelers, we are always having to integrate to new countries. We are constantly going to different countries, and we have to understand that every single culture and every single language and every single aspect and circumstance is different. Now, how can we integrate into those countries so that hopefully we can have, a good stay in the country that we are, whether we are staying for a short term or maybe a long term. Now, and one of the other skills is also that, of course, we must be able to sustain ourselves financially. So that is the main skill that everyone talks about, right? How to make money, and specifically how to make money online, because that is technically what fuels this side of being a digital nomad. And one of the other things is with, ourselves living in that spontaneous type of lifestyle, we're like, maybe today we want to do something, today we want to go to this new country, today we want to do this new activity. It is like an adventure, I understand it, but at the same time, that is why we must learn certain skills so that we can be prepared for the unexpected, and so that when that unexpected thing happens, we are able to adapt, and we know how to respond to these things when it is needed. And one of the other things is, of course, we have to learn how to stay valuable in the marketplace. What I mean by that is, as things change around the world and the economy also shifts, it is not so much about jobs only, but actually about the skills that we learn so that we can become valuable to other people. And then other people will want our services or whatever it is that we have to offer, so that we can, give that value and then get the money in return, give something and then money in return, right? And because of that, we also have to be capable of readapting to the world circumstances, to what is happening around the world nowadays with all this craziness out there, and we have to understand how it is that we can adapt to it. So actually, it is very funny that a lot of the people, especially in every single country that I go, I always get this thing. And one of the most common ones I always remember was in Japan, when they say, tensai dana, which means literally like, oh, you're a genius, huh? Something like that. And that expression was something that a lot of people told me often, and it was not like, there wasn't a bad intention with it, but for a reason, I felt weird about it. And everyone was always asking me, like, how do you learn languages so fast? How can you adapt to the countries so easily? How do you make friends so fast, right? Like, you've been here for a couple of days, but you already have local friends and you're already learning the language. Like, how is that? And a lot of things also reflect in maybe music. A lot of people ask me, how do you learn music instruments? How do you play guitar? How do you play drums? How do you, become a DJ? All these things. And even also, like, how did you launch a business in 14 days? That is exactly what happened. The first time that I started a business, that I sold something online, and from 0 to 14 days, I was like, you know what, I want to start this thing. I had the idea, I turned it into something that I could sell, and I tried to sell it, and I actually did sell, and I was able to sell a couple of $1,000s just for that one thing. So that was my first experience, and all of that happened in just 14 days because I was able to have not a talent, but actually a skill. And that is something that I will show you later. But when everyone was asking me this one question, like, oh, how is it that you do all these things, and telling me, oh, you're such a genius, you're so talented, for some reason, I was always answering, well, I don't know how I did it, but I know that it's not because I'm gifted. And it made me angry. It actually made me angry to think that, they were saying that I was gifted and it was easy. It was coming easy for me, probably because of that, because I thought, you know what, like, this is not something that I was naturally gifted at, and it is not something that I just didn't struggle to learn. It actually cost me a lot of time and a lot of pain to learn these things. And when people say, oh, you're so talented, it felt like they were taking away from all the experience and all the pain that I had to go through in order to learn that skill. And so I was always thinking, like, why do everyone talks about talent and not a lot of people just say, like, oh, well, you learned that skill, or like, you figured it out. And that is because, a lot of the times talent versus skill is something that is thought as different. And when we talk about talent, maybe it is something that you're naturally born with, and it is something that not everyone has in them, and also something that, it's not possible to teach or to acquire. While on the other side, talking about a skill is technically something that you can acquire after some time of practice. If you do that constantly, then you eventually acquire that skill. And so everyone can actually have that, possess that skill after learning it, and it can definitely be taught and transferred. So if I have the skill and I learned it, then how can I transfer it to someone else? That is something possible as well. But the funniest part of all is when I understood that a lot of people talk about talent and skill very differently, is because of this one thing. Now, when we talk about talent, it is always like something that is out of our control. Oh, you were born with it, or you're so gifted, but I don't have that gift. I wasn't born with that thing. I am not capable of doing that. Not me. Well, like, you, of course, Eduardo, it's because you are this or because you are that. So it already or automatically takes away from your control to change that situation, which in a lot of the cases is easier. It's just the easy answer, right? Oh, well, yeah, like, I wish I could do it, but I can't do it just like you because I'm not gifted. So that is a perfect excuse to literally not do anything about it. While instead, if we thought about it from the perspective of the skill, it would be completely different. Like, oh, so how did you learn that one thing? Or, right, how can I learn that one thing? What is the process that I need to take? What are the things that I need to take, or the steps I need to take in order to learn that skill? Because let's face it, skills are learnable and trainable. And talent is something that you just acquire by birth. And 99.99999% of the things that we do in life are acquired by practice and by doing these things often, not just because we're gifted, right? And so when we think about it, everyone can always see, like, oh, well, you dress like an Arab, or, how is it that you were able to be featured in Chinese TV? Or, how is it that you always eat Japanese food? How did you, like, even know how to cook or maybe integrate these things into your life? And the same thing is, just being traveling constantly. Everyone was always seeing maybe pictures or just asking me, where are you now? Like, I can't keep up with you, right? So that was so common. But the truth is, while people see this from the outside, they didn't really understand what was going on from the other side, right? Like the actual behind the scenes, as we call it. And instead of, people used to think, oh, take it for granted. Well, like, it must have been that, because of something that's why you were able to be featured in Chinese TV, or it's because you have the money or your parents pay for your trips, right? Always putting that side of why you can do things into the talent, and maybe like, oh, everything is easy for you, instead of thinking that there is actually a journey and there is actually something hard beyond what we can see. And I came up with this phrase myself a couple of months ago or years ago, and I always thought about it, but I never really put it into paper until very recently. That's why I say, but literally everyone can see the glory, but only a few know the story, right? It's like everyone knows what it's like on that side, like the tip of the iceberg, but no one really understands what's beyond it and what's behind that. And so when you can't see that, that's when you start taking things for granted, or where you believe that everything is easy. Well, in fact, overnight success takes years, and that is exactly what people don't see. At least in my case, people really never knew, and a lot of people don't know this is something that I never openly shared before. I'm literally sharing with you guys because I want you to understand what it is that makes that skill for you to learn it easier. And what people don't see is that I literally grew up with, with very low self-esteem. I'm not kidding. I wasn't someone who, felt very comfortable around other people, especially at my young age. And one of the reasons is because of my ear. Like many of you have noticed, maybe have noticed in videos, or maybe haven't. But the point is, up till I was like 12 years old, I had already had a couple of surgeries, just everything about my ear. And every single time I had surgery, it was kind of like a constant reminder that there was something wrong with me or something like that. And I was bullied at school for that reason as well. And because of different circumstances, I also had to be shifting schools very often, every couple of months or maybe years. And eventually that created a circumstance where I had to be making new friends and learning to readapt to that new school and to start all over again. And so that really made me understand that I had to be often taking that type of uncomfortable action. And by uncomfortable action is I was always trying to step from that comfort zone, because I knew that if I stayed in my comfort zone and that little bubble of myself, that of course that would be the easy answer and the most comfortable way for me to do things. But I wasn't going to be able to adapt and integrate into that new circumstance where I was at that point. And so it really obligated me to do things and just look for myself and think, you know what, like nobody is going to look after me if I don't look after myself. And that was literally it. Like even beginning from lunch, maybe like making lunch for me at school. My mom didn't have the habit of preparing lunch for me, so if I didn't do it for myself, she wouldn't have. And so that is exactly one of the things that I had to be, I had to get used to doing things for myself and stepping out of that comfort zone and actually doing some repeatable processes or repeatable things that eventually just became something natural, right? Or eventually felt like they become something natural. But a lot of people don't really see the pain behind it. And when it comes to traveling, for you guys, so that you understand it, how to connect it, actually, I was born in Mexico, I grew up in Mexico, but ever since that time, like 10, almost 11 years ago, I started living in different countries and traveling to different countries. And this process that I call acculturation and inculturation is something that I've done so many times. And by what I mean by acculturation and inculturation is literally having to forget or kind of put aside what you thought that was the common thing, the natural thing to do in your culture, something about social rules and cultural rules. Just put them aside and then try to learn new rules or new society perspectives so that you could do things in the country that you were at, in that new place or circumstance. So it happened for me in Mexico, it happened for me in the US when I was little. I was about 8, 9, 10 years old or something. And it happened to me where I went on my exchange year in Japan as well. And of course, Malaysia and United Kingdom and China, those 3 countries are where I studied my degree. I studied my whole university in these 3 countries. And so every single time that I was going to these countries, I literally had to kind of start all over again. And then forget that what I was taking for granted in my country was not the same as that country, right? So every single time I had to do this process of, okay, let's put aside the things that I thought were that I take for granted, that I believe that are normal, and now I have to open myself to understanding what are the things that are common here, what are the things that we have to do, what are the things that we cannot do, just relearning everything all over again, just like a baby, like you start all over again. And so it happened the same in China and in Georgia, and I know that in the future I'm going to be doing the exact same process with Egypt and Iran and India and a lot of countries where I want to live in the future, so that I can learn the language, I can integrate, I can actually create some relationship and some ties with that country, not just traveling. Because traveling, like visiting, I've been over a lot of countries, but living as truly local, these are the countries that I want to be part of, and maybe more in the future, but these are just some examples. And what I was saying by the game as a starting all over again, you have to think about it like if it was a video game. Now imagine, putting this thing of talent aside, if you were playing the same game all over again and actually got to a certain point, maybe level 3, where it somehow gets very hard, and then suddenly you just can't get past level 3, then of course once you start all over, and if you don't have a checkpoint, you start from level 1 again and then level 2, then every single time that you do these 2 levels, it'll become easier and easier and easier and easier. And it is not because you were talented or because you were gifted, but because you were repeating the same process again and again and again, right? So just think about Mario, like that. For me, that was the best example, but just think about when you try to accomplish a mission and then you run out of lives and stars, and then you had to start all over again. Now you know where to head. Maybe the first time you don't know that there's something beyond that waterfall, but maybe the next time you already know there's something beyond that waterfall. So that means that you already know where to head. So this is the most amazing part of having this process or going through this process over and over again as a nomad or as a traveler, so that every single time that you reach a country, you'll have the opportunity to be like a baby again, but way better and way faster, because now you know the things that you have to understand, you know the things that you have to learn, you know the things you have to do, you know the things that you don't have to do, and the game becomes easier. It really becomes easier, and therefore you can go faster and then just grow in a much quicker manner. And this is just like I was explaining. So let's just talk about it in case of our lives in nomad aspect. If you imagine, level 1 would be to decide that we want to be global, we want to go travel, we want to have all these things. So we have that desire, we have the plan, we want to make all that happen. Maybe we start making some money online, maybe some income. But in the end of the day, a lot of us, for some time, maybe we don't get past the level 2, which would be achieving that true financial stability. So we always have this struggle, right? We have some money, but now because of my job or my business or anything that's happening, maybe doesn't allow you to have as much money as you believe you could have or you needed in order for you not to think about money. Because a lot of the times we just cut on our expenses to try to survive, and it feels like it's enough, but we are still playing that level 2 and we never really get past that level 2. And of course, if we don't get past that level 2, then we even less that we will be getting past level 3, which is integrating into that actual culture. If we're constantly worrying about how can we make the money to have a sustainable living and a stability in the country that we're at, then let alone we're not going to be able to actually integrate and focus on living that experience fully in that country. And so as long as we don't get past level 1 properly and level 2 properly and level 3 properly, we're going to keep on going back to the same thing. And as long as we don't manage to understand which are the processes that we need to take, then it's going to be very hard. And that is exactly why I literally created certain processes for me to do every single step of the way when I travel, when I integrate into a country. Just think about it, like what do I have to do prior to my travel? Or what do I have to do once I arrive? Where can I make local friends? Where to find best spots for me to hang out? Or maybe how to become a local, how to learn the local language, what can I take advantage of from that country, where do I find these business opportunities, who do I connect or network with, which events are happening, what are the goals for the next few months, and what not to do, of course, during my time there. I had to have all these things clear so that I can actually get through every single step of the way and actually multiply and maximize my speed in that process and be able to really take that country and use that stay as an advantage for me. So the question here really is, how can you be able to actually create a process and learn any skill that you want way faster by creating a proven step-by-step process or something like that? So in the case of learning language, I actually created a process which says, well, if I'm starting to learn a new language, this is step 1 that I need to take, this is step 2, step 3, step 4. And if it was about me integrating into a new country, let's say I just arrived to Egypt, I literally already know which are the steps that I'm gonna need to take. I use something that I call fast track integration, for example, and that is, it's like a checklist where I have all the details and all the things that I had to do. So it's first a couple of checklists and a couple of things that are maybe doing the touristic stuff. So for me, it is about doing touristic stuff and then just getting that out of the way and turning that page so that I can transition into becoming a local fast. So that means during my transition phase or before my transition phase, I go to the touristic spots. Of course, I try to hang out in places where the foreigners are, or I try to see the things that are so popular from the country. And then after that, I actually check it off my list, I turn the page, and then I say, well, where are a couple of unknown restaurants or local places where I can eat something delicious, not just McDonald's or, right, like Occidental things. Where can I actually eat something local? And then that's where it begins, having all this list of things that you can do in order to have that integration happen way faster. And this literally applies for every single skill that you think about when you are a nomad. It applies for you to be able to create certain goals, to be able to define your dreams and what you have to do in order to achieve those dreams. Of course, it works for you if you learn certain skills that you have to learn as an entrepreneur, or maybe as in your job that you have to become yourself more valuable to the market and make more money. It also helps for you to learn skills when it comes to learning a language and also integrating and also networking and creating relationships, maybe creating partnerships for someone who can help you grow your business. There's just an infinity of things that you can use in order for you to learn skills faster as a nomad and for you to actually maximize your experience abroad and overseas. And so this is literally something that has helped me get 10 times faster every single country that I go to and every single process that I use for me to live my life around the globe in a way that I can really thrive and that I can really maximize and just take advantage of all the experiences and opportunities that I have in every single country. And so I wanted to encourage you to actually create processes for you so that you know that every single thing that you have to do or every single goal that you have, instead of thinking, well, that's so hard, I can't do it. And even instead of thinking, like, how can I learn that skill? Think one step even beyond and say, how can I make that skill? If I need this thing that I need to reach and that goal, and I need to learn that skill, then how can I actually make that process easier for me? How can I make this skill that is learnable and trainable? How can I acquire it in the fastest way possible so that I don't have to struggle and I don't have to waste time or have go through pain just as I did for the last 10 years, so that you can have whatever it is that you want to have anywhere in the world. And I hope that this video has really helped you and has given you a new perspective when it comes to learning any type of skill that you want in the world. And if you like this video, then make sure you give it a thumbs up. I'd appreciate it a lot. It really helps out the channel. And make sure that you subscribe as well if you want to see content just like this one. And I really hope to see you around soon. And take care, amigos. I'll see you very, very soon.